Picture this. You've applied for a job and you actually got it. But 3 years down the line, you're fired simply because of a post that you put 10 years back.
I don't know whether you remember a case here in Kenya of a lady who missed a tourist board job.
Yeah, I remember.
Simply because of something she had posted a long time ago.
And forgotten about it.
About National Park.
In this episode, we're going to learn how background checks can land you a job or even land you out of a job.
That's why you find someone may intentionally omit a previous employment. So you wonder, this person left this employment in this year and he reservices or she reservices again after 3 or 4 years.
What have they been doing? Madam Victoria Mulwa, the CEO Arope Group, is here to shed light on all the myths surrounding background checks and also share her story on how she has managed to help organizations get people with right qualifications for their jobs.
It was forged because it had no records of criminal, it had nil criminal records. But in the database, the guy had been jailed for 2 years and the employer never knew.
What are you waiting for? This is the best time to hit the subscribe button, like and share widely. And as always, keep it Crimeshield. This episode has been shot at Wojo, a premium co-working space located at Makua Hotel, Upper Hill, Nairobi. Get to enjoy a wide range of premium facilities, including premium working spaces, a fully equipped gym, swimming pool, and not forgetting their bottomless coffee. You can find their details down on the screen below. Before you get a job, when you've applied it, and I know many people out there, especially the youth, are applying jobs, what do you think goes on before you're given the acceptance letter? That is the conversation of today. We're looking at the background checks. What is it? What are we going to learn today? So sit back, relax, and put in the comment sections what you'd want us to discuss as even we discuss this topic. Today we have a lovely lady, one of my mentors, and she created time to come talk to you about everything you need to know about background checks. Without further ado, karibu sana, Madam Victoria.
Thank you so much, Kingsley.
Yeah. People don't know that we go way back. This was supposed to happen a long time ago, but we thank God because of His grace. Being busy is also good. Yeah, but thankfully you're here.
And His timing is normally the best.
God's timing is always the best.
Yes.
So I want us to go directly to the point. And before we fill people with information about background checks, who is Madam Victoria Mulwa?
Wow. Just to add to our opening remarks.
Yes.
People many times ask, how much can background checks reveal? To employers, it's not the time background check was just about criminal checks. Nowadays, it goes far beyond that.
Okay.
It encompasses previous employment history, financial records, and it even looks at social media platforms.
So if I wrote something that can affect me in the future, I need to be very careful.
Yes.
My next employer will be notified.
Yes, it goes far beyond just what people imagine, and it can reveal so much.
Wow.
My name is Victoria Mulwa, CPP, that is a Certified Protection Professional, PCI, Professional Certified Investigator, and PSP, Physical Security Professional. I'm the CEO of Arope Group. Arope Group is a corporate background checks company. We check background checks, due diligence, investigations, and even risk mitigation matters.
Wow.
So what I can say, our mission is to help employers hire right first time.
So you're removing the worry from any employer out there who probably wants staff to do work in their corporate environment or in the offices, so that they are only worried on how they will perform, but they need a clean, you know, an employee with a clean sheet, somebody who does not have any records, as you've mentioned.
Yes, so as to mitigate the risks which can come along from a bad hire.
Many times, Madam Vicky, we've seen a lot of people have many stereotypes on background checks. So a little bit of history, how has it evolved over time? Because you've mentioned it earlier, but I wanted you to shed a light on how background checks has evolved, you know, from just looking at the criminal records, and then now, right now, you've talked about social media. Does it mean that if I have put something in my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, somebody somewhere who would have been my employer can either say yes or no based on what the background check reveals? Is that the case?
Absolutely, yes. Background has really evolved with time.
Yeah.
I repeat, it's not the time when people were just checking on criminal records. It goes far beyond that. Previous employment records. It comprises process which includes financial records, global sessions, lists, identity verification, and even digital footprints. I don't know whether you remember a case here in Kenya of a lady who missed a tourist board job.
Yeah, I remember.
Simply because of something she had posted a long time ago.
And forgotten about it.
About national park.
Wow.
So we have to be very, very sensitive, very, very intentional and careful on what we post.
Okay.
Yes.
And people might be out there wondering, it doesn't just affect you negatively. Sometimes social media footprints can impact you positively.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It can cause visibility. It can cause people to know who you are. And of course, cause demand for your services.
Yes.
Or even to have people looking for you to engage you even without you having to apply for any job.
I hear nowadays the people who, they're no longer called HR, they are called talent acquisition. They're the people who basically recommend people to work for different firms.
Sure.
I want us to dig deeper and look at, you know, the technicalities. So if you're conducting your background checks, what are these red flags that, you know, can show you that this is not the right person for this job? Because I'm sure you are, you know, many files are there you need to peruse through. How do you notice the red flags? What are the red flags that, you know, can come out when you're conducting your background checks from your experience?
There are some very obvious red flags which you notice just by looking at a CV. You may realize there are gaps in employment. These gaps could indicate job hopping or if you had issues with your previous employment.
Okay.
That's why you find someone may intentionally omit a previous employment. So you wonder, this person left this employment in this year and he reservices or she reservices again after 3 or 4 years.
What have they been doing?
Yes, so they could have worked somewhere and because of employment challenges or bad blood, they omit that. So gaps in employment is something which someone should take very, very seriously. I remember a case whereby we were doing background checks for existing employment.
Mm.
And then someone just took sabbatical leave for 2 years.
That person was already employed. He already has a job.
Yes.
Okay.
But when the employer decided to do background checks on even the existing,
Mm-hmm.
we discovered when they brought the police
report.
clearance certificate,
Mm-hmm.
it was forged because it had
Wow.
no records of criminal, it had nil criminal records.
Mm.
But in the database, the guy had been jailed for 2 years and the employer never knew. According to the records in the office,
Wow.
the employee had gone for sabbatical leave to study.
Ah.
And true to his word, he studied when he was in jail, so he came with a certificate.
After finishing his time in jail, he came back with certificate
Very interesting.
for a job that he has been doing.
Yes.
Wow.
So those gaps are very important to check.
Mm-hmm.
There are also discrepancies in titles and responsibilities.
Mm.
People want to fake and write what you as an employer are looking for.
Mm.
It may not be necessarily what they did or
Okay.
what they worked, the roles they had.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another area. We are keen when we are writing to previous employers
Mm.
to know what titles and what responsibilities
Mm.
the previous employees had in the company.
So some people either promote themselves on their CVs
Yes.
or they demote themselves just to fit in.
We call it beautifying so that it looks very attractive.
Okay.
And then, of course, criminal records.
Mm.
You find the police clearance certificate is very, very forged.
Mm.
It is an area we make sure and ensure that it originates
Mm.
from DCI.
It's called plausibility, where you're able to trace it back
Yes.
to the main source.
Yes.
When you're looking at now, let's take an example of the person who took sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
He's already gotten the job.
Yes.
Do you think if the employer would have conducted the background check earlier on, he would have saved himself the stress of realizing that they had a wrong fit?
You see what happens?
Mm.
There are several stages of background checks.
Okay.
At the entry level,
Mm-hmm.
and also you can do it randomly
Mm.
just to check, because some people may have joined when they were good and
Mm-hmm.
they get bad.
Over time.
For this particular one,
Mm.
the incident happened when he was already in employment.
And probably was
That's-
performing well.
Yes. That's why there is a need of rechecking, redoing it.
Mm.
You don't have to do it just once.
So for corporates, how often would they come for your services, or how often do you encourage employers to conduct background checks on their employees?
Depended on various factors,
Mm-hmm.
various positions, like for drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I know some institutions
Mhm.
which redo every time someone renews
Okay.
their driving license,
Mm-hmm.
they renew their good police clearance certificate,
Mm.
they renew their PSP.
Mm-hmm.
Then for corporates, there are some indicators which may force you to redo it.
Okay.
Sometimes lifestyle audits.
Mm.
You find someone joined when they were good, you know their salary,
Mm.
but the life they're living,
It is not commensurate to the salary they are taking home.
thank you. So that's sometimes when it can call for a repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And when as an employer,
Mm.
you deem it necessary.
So what happens when it comes to now safeguarding the data that you have? Somebody will come and say, we are seeing our information now from prospective employee, for that matter. Somebody who is coming and saying that how much of my information is out there. So how deep do you go when you're doing background checks for these individuals with respect to the data that you have?
You'll find there are regulations,
Okay.
like the General Data Protection Regulation.
GDPR.
In European countries.
Mm-hmm.
In Kenya, we have data protection.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to know that companies have the interest of protecting their data and their information.
Mm.
But at the same time, the employees also have the right. So is to make sure there is compliance, adherence to the laws,
Mm-hmm.
that there is consent form,
Mm-hmm.
that there is no breach, whichever
Okay.
side. And then use that information just for the intended purpose.
No wonder I usually see when you're applying for a job, there's like a certificate
Mm-hmm.
where you say that you acknowledge that every information that you've put there is correct and you've done it in sound mind. So that when something comes up, like the story you've told us, you won't say, it wasn't me who did that. So it's also important for there to be a certificate for the prospective employers. When
And
you
to add on that,
mm-hmm.
there's even a clause
Mm.
that the information you are giving
Mm.
is eligible for background checks,
Mm-hmm.
that the employer gets the mandate to carry on background checks.
Oh, for the employee, somebody who's
employees.
applying. Okay.
Yes, whether employing, and then what you have said when you sign that,
Mm.
the information given is to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
That by itself is an authority to allow them to verify and prove that what you have said is
Mhm.
truthful.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're looking at now, you know, we've started on a very high note, and a probable employee somewhere is worried that how can I make my resume or the information about me depict who I am? And in
Mhm.
most cases, you find now, listening to you, the nitty-gritties in presenting yourself, let's say in a resume or in your CV,
Mhm.
can go as far as even missing out on dates. Some people end up saying that they worked for a certain company just for the sake of that. You know, they didn't volunteer. So integrity is very key for the
Mhm.
people who are, you know, looking for jobs. And right now, I'm sure very many youth out here are looking for jobs. And I want us to shed a light or more light on the power of social media in
Mhm.
terms of background checks. You told us about the incident of the lady who missed out on a job because she wrote something controversial,
Mhm.
which directly linked her to the job that she was applying for. What
Mhm.
can you tell people about that? And in terms of social media, what we put there, how can it hinder?
You see, what you put there
Mm.
can be used for or against.
Mm-hmm.
You said it can be good,
Mm-hmm.
it can be bad.
Yes.
You can be so critical
Mm.
that it speaks loudly
Mm.
in your page,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the association does not like critics.
Mm.
Sometimes, even the way you position yourself, the language you are using, it
Yeah.
profiles you, the character, the
Mhm.
personality.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be the exact, but you see, that is what is deemed of you.
Yeah.
And it can also go further. For instance, like if you are in finance and there are
Mhm.
some money issues,
Yeah.
and you are posting yourself just having good time in Mombasa,
Mhm.
holidaying, all that
Sprinkling
kind.
money.
Yes. So those are things which mean a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
So they are like a trigger. They'll trigger, you know, your employer, or,
Yes.
or you even for corporates. There are some partners who sometimes declare bankruptcy, but at the end of the day, you know, they are seen out there, you know, lavishly wasting, for lack of a better word,
Yes.
their resources.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at now the growth of background checks and
Mhm.
how it affects us,
Mm-hmm.
we are now in the modern day and age of AI and technology.
Mm-hmm.
We've highlighted on how you can be profiled via your social media accounts, how you can be profiled by the kind of company that you keep in terms of your social interactions. How can AI change how, you know, automating this background check, how do you find it? Do you embrace it, or will it bring more confusion? Because we have cases like deepfake, where you can have somebody in a meeting purporting to be that person, and yet probably it is misrepresenting that person. So with the technology that we have right now, and I'm sure tech will continue growing, is it something that you will embrace in terms of making background checks as a career of choice, or will it make that redundant in your thinking?
AI definitely is a good thing because it will speed the processes of analyzing data. It will also assist in automation while it comes to checks. But we cannot oversight, because it will still require a human element.
Exactly.
For checking, there are some things it can't do. Of course, there is no way it can understand the content. So there's that balancing. Pick the good thing which will work, because like with the data, it will make work very easy. You can just sit on that laptop, on that computer, and you can mine everything about a person. And just as you've mentioned, the deep fake, that will be a challenge. So I think we should also get a bit sophisticated and go ahead to ensure that we can be able to detect such things when they happen.
We are looking at now a scenario whereby your background check entity, and you said we are guided by, I've mentioned this severally on this show, confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Yes.
What can scare anyone who is venturing into this business? Because integrity is key, and some people might want to bypass the process. Has it ever happened to you in any way?
It has.
Wow.
What people forget in this industry, in security, integrity is a currency, a good name, good practices, ethics. So you find many people want quick fix. People have been so immoral that they just want to buy anything. We've had cases where people even bring us money because they get to know the companies we do background checks from. We had a case where someone was transitioning from one company to another. The previous company they had worked for years on a senior level, and he got a higher paying job with another company in the same industry. But we realized his academic papers were forged.
Wow. And they have been performing?
They've been performing. And you see now, he's already left the other place, resigned, and is supposed to join a new place. And where he's joining, they have to reject because of the forged certificates. And you see, that is integrity issue. If you can forge certificates, what else can't you do? So they visit us, they give us money, but we have always resisted. Those who know me, they know my faith, my stand, and my professionalism. I never compromise. Many times I've refused because I have a name to keep.
You've mentioned something that is very critical, and we share in this, the faith. Integrity is something that is very critical. And in most cases, people think that safety and security is cheap. So people out there need to understand that in as much as you'd want the best, then you know that the best, you need to pay for it.
Very, very true.
If we are looking at now somebody out there, and especially the youth, I want us to talk about the youth. What would you tell this young lady or young man who has gone to study and you know, wants to venture into a career. You know, people think you're born and raised in in the security industry. Probably if you tell them your story, they would understand that safety and security is wide. It's just a matter of us to be able to come out and see where are the gaps and what solutions can we bring.
I have to mention this, which I didn't say at the beginning. I'm a career banker. I did BCom in the university, joined the bank at manager level. Little did I know what I was doing was security until very late. At the manager level, account opening documents, we used to peruse to make sure they are genuine.
Yes.
To make sure that they match the name, the ID, all that. When a client comes to withdraw money with a cash, with check, and those days, my days, there were no ATMs. It was a must. You walk to the bank.
Yes.
Give the check, your ID, we check, we cross-check, amount in words. That is document verification.
Which is part and parcel of what you're doing now.
What is background check? Verification of documents.
Yeah.
So when I transited, it's when I realized I'm doing exactly what I was doing, but in a different industry. And to perfect this, I joined associations which are handling security matters. And I did certifications which gave me the knowledge, the power to know how to carry out my assignments professionally, ethically, and with global standards. So I was never born a security person, but now I enjoy it so much. And in fact, I can say it's what has taken me around the globe, going for conferences, going for trainings, which has made me stand out in the industry.
You know, I want to dig deeper into that. You talked about CPP, PCI, PSP. Tell us a little more about it, because I'm sure those certifications are the ones that pretty much guided you and enabled you to understand even deeper in your craft.
Yes, there is ASIS is the largest member by individual association in the world, and it is the one which gives those certificates. I studied and I managed to pass, something which saw me become the first lady in Kenya, in East Africa, Central Africa, and South Africa. It's only in Nigeria where we had people had done this. So they gave me the mastery, they equipped me to carry out the assignment with knowledge and at the global standards.
You've talked about networking. You also mentioned that there are conferences that you attended. Shed a little bit of light on how this networking with like-minded security professionals changed your perspective to how you conduct the background checks with your company.
In the Holy Book, there's a verse which says, iron sharpens iron. When I did these certifications, now with the knowledge, I had the benefit of networking with people who have been in the industry, the people who are doing the work very well. So it gave me that opportunity to learn, to benchmark, to connect, and even to do a lot of work with ease. Because they held my hands and I could now match what is required in the industry.
You did not go for sabbatical.
I did. And it bridged that gap that I was not from the armed forces or from the police, whereby it was the tradition there before that to be a security person, you must come from the forces. That
stereotype, I think, with the time, you know, and many people coming on board to discuss these issues, the stereotype will, you know, fade
Very, very true.
I want us to talk to the ladies out there,
Mm-hmm.
the women. You know, you've been chair women in security.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell them, you know, in terms of having hope in this industry, especially security professionals, the young and the ones who have been in the industry? How, there's one thing that when any employer looks for an employee, they put their, you know, experience level.
Mm-hmm.
You've come from banking.
Yes.
You're now, you know, one of the best, you know, in East Africa in background checks. And you are not in law enforcement, you are not in the army, you are not in any, you know, framework of law enforcement for that matter. And you're a lady in Africa. Speak to the ladies. How did you manage through the hurdles?
Wow. One, I say, look up unto the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
but faith has to be backed by action.
Mm.
Get out there, equip yourself with the necessary tools.
Mm-hmm.
The certifications, of course, equipped me,
Mm.
and then the networks, and then integrity,
Mm.
working ethically, never compromising, just competing on the job,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether you're a woman or a man. That way is the way to go.
Wow.
We should not get businesses,
Mm-hmm.
we should not get positions or even employments
Mm.
because of a pity, because you are a lady.
Mm-mm.
You should get that position because you are qualified, and because you stand out, and because you want that job and you can match.
The passion.
Yes, and you can work for it passionately.
Mm.
In fact, one thing I really emphasize,
Mm.
make sure you love what you are doing.
Mm.
Don't just go for it for the sake of it.
Wow.
Assess yourself, is this what I want? And then get in full blast.
We have a culture
Mm-hmm.
at the Crimeshield podcast where our guests ask questions
Mm-hmm.
that I do not read until the next guest comes.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask you a question from the previous guest,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you'll be able also to draft a question to the next guest who
Mm-hmm.
comes. And our previous guest has a company called MetaHack, and for those who haven't watched it, it's a very, very, very intense conversation on how you can do mapping for criminal activities.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the question that he has for you.
Wow. Hope it will be a easy one.
Yes. What is the one thing that can be improved in the security space? If there's anything that you'd want to be improved, I think this is what he meant,
Mm-hmm.
in the security sector,
Mm.
what would that be?
That thing would be personal commitment and integrity.
Personal commitment
And integrity.
and integrity.
Whereby
Mm-hmm.
I will not push the blame to the rest.
Mm-hmm.
I will start it. I'll be the role model.
Mm-hmm.
It will start with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have this blame game. We are corrupt. We keep on saying we are corrupt. Who is corrupt? I'm not corrupt.
Yeah.
I've personally decided I'll not be corrupt. So integrity starts with me. And then I teach the rest of the people. So if each individual in the security industry can walk the talk, we are good to go. And don't forget, safety and security is paramount.
Mm.
It touches everybody,
Mm-hmm.
everywhere,
And it's not cheap.
and it is not cheap. In fact, you remind me,
Yes.
in the industry you find some people when they are negotiating things,
Yes.
they say, let me go for the cheap. Be warned, cheap is expensive. Just try to find out the quality of what you are getting in comparison with the person who is making it a little bit higher. You will be shocked sometimes.
There you have it, guys. We've been taught on what to check in terms of how we prepare our CVs, how we are able to be flagged if at all we've misinterpreted ourselves, and a message to the younger generation: join memberships. She's mentioned about ASIS and how it impacted her journey in the background check industry and security in general, traveling the world, giving talks, mentoring. What is your role in ensuring that you become a security person who is integrity-led, somebody who will not be easily gullible or corrupt for that matter? This and more can be found only on the Crimeshield podcast, where we bring real-time experts to shed a light on these critical issues. If you have any comments, put them on the comment section. We'll also put along where you can be able to find Madam Victoria Mulwa, and she'll be able to tell you more about background checks. As always, keep it Crimeshield and see you next time.